Hello class, welcome to another lesson for social studies. Please write on the top of your page social studies 8th 10.8 for lesson 8 unit 10. Today we'll be talking about the grant administration and scandals with the vocabulary right here. As always, with the yellow highlighted, please write these down as these will be the answers, so follow along and pay attention. Starting with President Grant, who took office during the days of military occupation of the South and Republican congressional reconstruction. The people of the South could not be expected to rejoice in the election of the former adversary, General Grant, and the office of president. They believed that the North was determined to punish, or at least insult, the South in every way possible. Southern whites were already developing a very negative view of the Northern occupation, and some of these feelings have survived to the present, though they are not serious as during the Reconstruction era. And three groups drew line of ear of Southern whites during military reconstructions. These groups include the carpetbaggers, scallywags, and black Republicans. And explanation is in order. So group 1, the carpetbaggers. Many Northerners traveled to the South during Reconstruction. The motives of these people varied greatly, and some of them came in to help the blacks and to help stabilize their government during military reconstruction. Others came to try and make some money, and often at the expense of the Southerners. Because of the dishonest and greedy Northerners who came, all the Northerners were distrusted and resented. Southerners called for newcomers and come from the North, and they're called carpetbaggers because they threw a few things in travel bags and made a carpet and came fast as they could to take advantage of the new jobs. Southerners resented them too, and many of these Northerners served admirably as teachers, clerks, tax collectors, and ministers. Southerners realized that some of these were trying to help, but for the most part they viewed them as with suspicion and incentives as best, and at worst corrupt. Carpetbaggers were the main symbol of the Northern Reconstruction to the Southerners. And the second group is scallywags. They were Southerners who cooperated with the radical Republicans and made life miserable for other Southerners. Any Southerners who voted for Grant in the 1868 election were viewed with suspicion. Most scallywags were actually people who hated slavery before the war and had refused to support the Democratic Party. They had not changed their minds at this point, and they were not very popular with typical white Southerners. These scallywags were ignored in Southern societies and were sometimes attacked or threatened by the secret societies. And then group 3 were the black Republicans. Freedmen who took part in politics were quite naturally Republican in their political view. They were supported by the Republican Party in their quest for office. And when they got into office, they were supported by the federal government and the radical Republicans and President Grant. They were therefore hated by whites and had lost their right to vote or hold office in that these blacks elected officials and political leaders were called black Republicans, and Southerns applied them to the black Reconstruction, to the period of military and congressional reconstruction. President Grant had much to deal with when he came to office. The presidency had been attacked and weakened during Andrew Johnson's administration. Congress was out of control and bullying the other branches of the government. The Southern were under military law, and trying to reestablish the state governments. Black Friday, one of the characteristics of the U.S. Grant, had served him well during the war and could give him responsibility to junior officers and then trust them to come through. As president, he continued to show his trust in people, but with a different result. Sometimes people took advantage of President Grant and brought scandals to the administration. Continuing on, in 1869, two Wall Street traders, Jay Gould and Jim Fisk, attempted to corner the gold market. They were trying to buy up a significant portion of the available gold in the nation, and this would drive the price of gold up. At this time, they would sell gold and make a large profit. And the only thing that could keep this plan from working was the release of gold from the federal gold reserves. At this time, the nation's money was backed by silver and gold, and physical gold was kept in reserve to back the paper currency. Gold Fisk knew that the president authorized the release of gold from the reserves into the private market. Their plan would not work, and therefore they would recruit Abel Corbin, Grant's brother-in-law, to find out whether Grant would release gold to the reserves, and the market started to rise. So moving on, we're going to talk about the credit mobilizer scandals of 1872. Another scandal occurred during the Grant administration, involved the building of the Trans-Constitutional Railroad. The railroad was involved in the government, but the railroads also had to raise money from private investors, which then would discount the stocks to buyers. This was illegal, but many government employers became involved in the scheme, and they were given railroad stocks to keep them quiet. When the scandal became known, many members of the Grant administration were implicated. These included many Congress and Vice President. Grant was not directly involved, but the scandal certainly hurt him in the eyes of the public. And then with positive achievements, there were several positive results from the Grant administration. For example, Reconstruction was conducted in a more moderate way during his time in the office. And also during Grant's admission, Congress passed the Amnesty Act of 1872. With this act restored the voting rights and the rights to hold office of thousands of former Confederates, officers, and leaders. Another act of Congress during the Grant admission was the Civil Rights Act of 1875. This act guaranteed to all persons, regardless of race, equal or free access to the public facilities such as railroads, hotels, and theaters. And after the Reconstruction, these provisions would eventually be stripped away, as we shall see. Also, by the end of the Grant's first term as president, all the former Confederate states would be readmitted to the Union, and all of these states would have their delegates seated in Congress. These last three to be readmitted were in 1870, and these were Mississippi, Georgia, and Texas. And right here in the bottom, you have important dates for the Reconstruction, when they were declared succession, joined Confederacy, readmitted to Congress, and Democratic Party establishes control. Alright guys, and that is it for Lesson 8. Thank you for tuning in Social Studies.